9-2, quadratic functions. Our learning objective is to graph quadratic functions of the form y equals ax squared plus bx plus c, and we are going to pay careful attention to our b values. So let me tell you your essential understanding. In y equals ax squared plus bx plus c, the value of b affects the position of the axis of symmetry. Remember, the axis of symmetry was the fold line. So we're going to graph 3 different equations. And see how the different b's affect the axis of symmetry. So I'm going to highlight the b values in each one. So here, b is 2, b is 4, and b is 6. So we're going to sketch the graph of each one of these equations. And I'm also going to show you how to use Desmos to help you sketch graphs. All right, so for the first graph, this I'm just at desmos.com/calculator. For the first graph, we have y equals 2x squared plus 2x. So our b is equal to 2 in this case. All right, so on your paper, we're going to graph. We have a vertex here at -1/2, -1/2, and an x-intercept at -1, 0, and at 0, 0. So I'm going to apply these critical points to my graph. I'm going to go back to our sketch. Sketch this graph. So it had a vertex at -0.5, 0.5. I'm going to put V for vertex. So our axis of symmetry is the equation. So if I were to, I can actually fold this parabola across this line and it would match up. So the equation of my axis of symmetry is actually x equals -1/2. All right, so the important parts here are the fact that x equals -1/2 for this axis of symmetry, that the vertex is at -1/2, -1/2. All right, so let's go ahead and do the other one, 2x squared plus 4x. So this 2 changes to a 4. I now have this graph. Our important points, the vertex is now at -1, -2. it crosses the x-axis at -2, 0, and at 0, 0. So if I'm sketching that graph, I'm going to double check my vertex. Make sure I get it right on my graph. So -1, -2. All right, so this graph looks like this here. My axis of symmetry is x equals -1. My vertex is at -1, -2. All right, last but not least, we have our 6 in for our b value. So we change this to a 6. And once we change that to a 6, we're here at -1.5, -4.5. This is 0, 0, and this is -3, 0. 1.5, -4.5. One, two, so there's a point here. 1.5, 4.5. And my last point was 0, 0. So my graph is going to look like this. I'm going to have an axis of symmetry at x equals -1.5, and my vertex is at -1.5, -4.5. Alright, so the b value and the axis of symmetry are related, and I actually want you to write this formula down. Axis of symmetry x equals -b/2a. So you have to know what the a value is and the b value is. And then your x coordinate of the vertex is also -b/2a. So knowing what a and b are, you can find the values of your vertex and your axis of symmetry. So let me show you a couple of examples. Graphing is a lot easier when you know the axis of symmetry and your vertex. So for example, I want you to graph, of course by hand, y equals -x² plus 4x minus 2. So the first thing you need to identify are the a's and the b's. And I'll give you c just for fun. We don't need to know them in this section, but we will need to know it next. So if our a value is -1 and our b value is 4, let's find our axis of symmetry. It's going to be negative b, which is 4, over 2 times a, which is negative 1. So our axis of symmetry, when we simplify this down, is negative 4 divided by negative 2, and in fact is positive 2. So on my graph, at x equals 2, I'm going to have an axis of symmetry. This is my fold line. Am I smiley face or am I frowny face? It's based on what my A is. If A is negative, he's a frowner. So we're going to be sad face. And my x coordinate of my vertex, so my vertex is going to be at 2 comma something. So I have to figure out where the other part of my vertex is going to be. So I just plug in 2 to my equation. And I don't have parentheses around this squared because up here, this negative is not inside that square. So this gives me negative 4 plus 8 minus 2. Negative 4 plus 8 is positive 4. Positive 4 minus 2 is 2. So my vertex is going to be at 2, 2. So here I am at 2, 2. I know I'm a frowner. So I'm going to be going down. But I'm going to look for one more thing to help me kind of get a shape, because what if it has a crazy shape? So I'm going to look for one more thing. I'm going to look for the y-intercept. And that happens when x is equal to 0. So I'm going to take my equation, and I'm going to plug in 0 wherever there's an x. Because anytime we plug into 0, it's going to cancel crazy stuff out. So this is 0, and this is minus 2. So 0 plus 0 is 0, 0 minus 2 is negative 2. So my y-intercept is x equals 0, y equals negative 2, right here. So it's going to shoot down. And because I'm symmetric, it's going to have that same point rolling around this side of the equation too. So remember when we were doing the XY tables, we have to do each little point. This speeds it up a little bit for us. Once we know the axis of symmetry, let's make that graph amazing.